Every now and then, a vehicle comes along that makes me defy logic and convention. One that may not be the best in its class, but is the best for me and for like-minded drivers. Among compact SUVs, it's this, the 2025 Mazda CX-5. Before I get into why it's my favorite, do us a favor and hit those like and subscribe buttons below to get all of our latest reviews. Compared to other SUVs in the class, the CX-5 is a relative dinosaur. It was last redesigned in 2017, while many of its rivals are only a year or two old. For 2025, there's a new base model that rings in right around $30,000, but otherwise, there's only a minor shuffling of features between trim levels. This particular CX-5 is the top-of-the-line turbo signature model that costs around $42,000. One of my favorite aspects of the CX-5 is its styling, and considering its design is 8 years old, that's really saying something. It's beautifully sculpted, and the headlights are well integrated into this graceful grille. Around the sides and back, there's an elegant simplicity that really appeals to me. To my eyes, there's nothing to clutter the look, and I think that some shoppers might mistake it for an entry-level luxury SUV. Good design stands the test of time, and the CX-5 definitely qualifies. But what do you think? Do you find the CX-5 as attractive as I do, or is there an alternative that's caught your eye? Let us know in the comments below. The CX-5 is available with the choice of two engines. The base is a 2.5-liter four-cylinder that makes 187 horsepower. This is the turbo model that increases output to 256 horsepower. Both pair with a 6-speed automatic, and all-wheel drive is standard throughout the range. The base engine should get the CX-5 up to 60 miles an hour in a class average 8 seconds or so, while this turbo model should get there 2 seconds quicker. That makes the CX-5 one of the more powerful and quicker choices than the class. But the real magic is how it comes together on the road, so let's hop in and go for a spin. Alright, so in this turbo model, acceleration is very definite, very confident. It's probably got way more power than most drivers are going to need, so the base model is probably going to do fine for almost everyone. I like a little more power, and this really speaks to me. It's nice and linear and even and smooth, and it still sounds like a four-cylinder, but it really does get up to speed with a little more punch. The real star of the show is the way this handles, and it takes curves with really well-composed handling. I mean, it's not kind of like a boat and just listing from side to side. The suspension is just a little bit firmer to give you that kind of positive grip. It really does handle like a lower or smaller SUV. Now, the downside to that is the ride is a little more firmer as far as ride quality, but it's not harsh at all. You hit a bump, you hit a pothole, it's not going to send this sharp impact into your spine. More than anything, you'll notice it on kind of like the wavy washboard on a highway, where you just kind of get that repeating slap, but that's kind of the only time you'll feel a difference between this and something like a Honda CR-V. The brakes also feel really nice and progressive, so it's easy to just ease into them and come to a nice, smooth limo stop. As far as overall noise and comfort, well, I'm hearing some road noise, but it's not at all bad, and if I turned up the radio, it'd probably drown it out completely. On the highway, you really won't hear any wind noise either, so in that regard, it's a pretty good road tripper. Visibility is also great. This front roof pillar here doesn't get in my way when I'm going through left turns, and I have a pretty good view out the back as well. And when I'm parking in a tight spot, I have a good indication of where the corners are. And in this trim at least, you get the surround view camera, so it takes all the guesswork out. As far as other driver assists, well, the frontal collision alert doesn't set off any false alarms, and the blind spot warning also works as it should. So yeah, everything's pretty well dialed in. I mean, after 8 years, you kind of expect it, right? Those are some of my favorite aspects of the CX-5, but not the only one, so let's pull over and talk about the interior next. A lot of the grace that the exterior design has is echoed on the interior. At first glance, when you look around, it's actually easy to think that this could pass for a Lexus or an Acura, so entry-level luxury. The materials are great, soft touch dash materials and nice stitching everywhere, and in this top trim, genuine leather. Now up top we have a 10.25-inch touchscreen display for the infotainment, but it's a little different because for some reason Mazda, when you're using their native infotainment system, you actually can't use it as a touchscreen. You have to use this dial down here. Now, if you're using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you can use a touchscreen. But here's the thing, I actually prefer using the dial. I'm kind of old school. I like the older BMW iDrive and the old Audi MMI where they had a dial, because you can sort of just move the cursor around to where you want it and tap it with just a few glances back and forth. It's not like a touchscreen where you really have to be looking at the screen to touch it. So in that respect, I really like this infotainment system. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that you'd get in some newer SUVs, but fundamentally it just works, and to me that's more important. Both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay work wirelessly, and in the mid-range trims or so, you get a wireless charging pad. Another thing I really like about the layout of the CX-5 is that it's just a little bit older than what you're getting nowadays. Everything seems to be packed into the touchscreen here, but this goes kind of classic with physical knobs and dials. So as I'm driving down the road, I can change the temperature without even having to take my eyes off the road. It's just kind of a nice no-look grab. As far as storage goes, it's a little more than adequate. Like I said before, we have a wireless charging pad here. Now it's hard plastic, so the phone sort of rattles back and forth. I'd prefer a softer, grippier rubber there. We have some moderately sized cup holders and a nice deep center armrest bin. The door pockets, well, they're about moderately sized. You can get maybe one of those larger metal flasks in there if you're going for a hike. All things considered, this is one of the nicer interiors in the class, even though it is getting up there in years. But it's not the only part, so let's check out the back seats. Here in the back seats, I have an adequate amount of space. Now, I'm 5'10", sitting behind the driver's seat, which is set for me, and as you can see, I've got a few inches above, a few inches in front of my knees, and I've got a good amount of support in my thighs here. But that said, the Honda CR-V and Kia Sportage, they do have a little bit more space, especially in legroom, and a little bit more in headroom. But it's also just not as family-friendly as the CR-V. Now you'll see that even in this top trim we have vents, but not separate climate controls, and actually I don't see the USB ports, but they are here in the center armrest. You also have these heated seats, and the USBs are right here. But that means if you have a center passenger, you can't really access it or turn on the heated seats, so a little bit of a demerit there. Obviously this just doesn't do the family hauling as well as some of the other SUVs, but like I said, it's a dream to drive. When it comes to practicality, the CX-5 still comes up short when we're talking about cargo capacity. We have 30.8 cubic feet of cargo space behind the second row. That's almost 30% smaller than the Honda CR-V and Kia Sportage. And that's a big deal, especially if you have kids and strollers and everything else that comes along with them. So in that regard, again, not the best and not the most family friendly. But it does come with a hands-free power liftgate on the premium trim and above. Now, I know this CX-5 doesn't have as much passenger or cargo space as some of the class-leading SUVs, and its ride quality is a bit firmer too. But I love the way it drives. It's more composed and capable than the Honda CR-V or Kia Sportage, making it one of the sportier choices. It's not the most fuel efficient either, at 24 mpg in combined city and highway miles, but it's also not significantly worse than the competition either. Some rivals do offer hybrid options though. The CX-5 is a great alternative to other compact SUVs if you value performance and handling. If practicality and hauling kids are your priority, the Honda CR-V and Kia Sportage are slightly more convenient, and the Sportage gains an additional advantage for its price that'll save you about $1,000 or $2,000. Honestly, the only other SUV in the class I'd consider for myself is Mazda's own CX-50. It's curiously similar to the CX-5 in a lot of ways and has many of the same advantages. But what would you do in this situation? Do your requirements have you looking more towards the conventional SUVs? Or do you think this CX-5 will handle your daily duties? Would you consider the CX-50 as a newer version? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons below to see all of our latest reviews.